right, everybody, welcome on back to Dimmer. This is season 2, episode 1. I'm super excited because we're actually doing video, capturing video for everybody. And we're upping a couple different things. What else is new around here? I'm in a new home studio. The microphone is new, so it might sound just a bit richer. I know I don't have a very rich voice, but maybe it's a bit richer. And I also invested in a Daniel Marc tumbler for those watching right now. So there's a couple of upgrades for season 2. I'm pretty excited about it. And I wanted to start this season with somebody who I know for a long time and who I respect greatly, a great musician, my good friend, Mr. Josh Weinstein. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I miss you, first of all.
Likewise.
Nobody sees anybody anymore. But welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here. I'm excited to have you. We don't talk too much because it's been pandemic, but you've been one of my greatest friends over the last decade. And I feel like if there's anybody that has been on a serious musical journey like I have, it's you.
Feelings are mutual. You're probably, with the exception of maybe one or two other people from, well, I can't remember if I'd known you before them, but other than a few high school friends, I think you are one of my, if not oldest, musical companion, on this ride friend.
Yeah, what a wild trip. When I know we were like 18 and we're like, I think we should do music. And now I'm like, looking at me, I take up most of the camera on my side. It's like, it's crazy, but it's a beautiful thing. So, I mean, just what have you been up to? What have you been up to the last couple months? I mean, I know you have a new project out. I just listened to the Kumiho, the Moonwake thing. Is it pronounced Kumiho?
That's it. Nailed it.
It's a new project. So what's the deal? How did that come about? And why'd you decide to get into the lo-fi kind of instrumental world?
It was like two things, really. One, the pandemic obviously stopped the touring big time, and so it allowed me to have a lot more time on my hands to just not be playing shows. So I kind of forced myself to do something production-wise in my little space down here. And when I was doing it, a friend, actually, a drummer friend of mine, Dan Ryan, had kind of inspired me to maybe look into making some lo-fi hip-hop style beats. He had hit me up wanting to make some together, but because of the pandemic, it never panned out. Regardless, it sent me down this like wormhole of checking out the music, and it was I enjoyed listening to it. It was like a way to relax, something I'd put on in the shower, so to speak. And then I started seeing if I could recreate it, and it came fairly natural. So I said, well, I might as well just like see what happens and bust out a few. And next thing I know, I was like 10 to 20 songs in, just like keep popping them out, not spending too much time overthinking it. Like totally different style of songwriting for me. Not really worrying about lyrical content, and I don't really have anything to my name that's not from a collaborative standpoint. So I was just like excited. So I kind of had that like new, fresh feeling when it comes to working on music. And that's really it. Now I'm like just trying to put a track or two out every month and just be consistent with it. And so far people seem to like it. So I'm going to keep doing it and kind of learning as I'm going.
So it's first of all, it sounds awesome. I love the track. It's so you. And that's what I love
Thanks.
when my friends put out like their personal music. I think, your character shows through, which is like one of the most chill dudes I know. The music totally reflects that. And I hope people go check this out. The beat starts is like this awesome chill beat. And just as you start rocking, the Josh Weinstein signature bass guitar line comes in. You're like, So I really enjoyed it, man.
Yeah. Thanks, dude. Yeah, so it was like,
is it Dan Ryan on drums and you doing
no,
the
not
okay.
No, not at all. He just kind of like I was like not aware of the lo-fi thing, and he was like, dude, so many people are listening to lo-fi beats right now, you should check it out. So I like go on YouTube, type in lo-fi hip-hop beats, and there's like 5 million people listening to it like at the moment, live, or however many people are like tuning in live to do it. I'm like, I go on some of the Spotify playlists, I'm like, wow, this is like a really popular genre right now. that I kind of wasn't aware of. I easily get stuck into my like, people tell me like some music I should check out. I'll go into it. You know, there's music that like both of us have loved for years. I can listen to that on repeat for, you know, a long time. So when someone like sends me something new to check out, if I dig it, I'll just kind of keep going deeper and deeper. So that's kind of what happened. He just kind of inspired me to look into it. We haven't actually worked together. Hopefully we will, because I think that would be great. I think
Yeah,
it's
of
right up
course.
his alley. But so
Dan
far, yeah, I'm
Ryan
doing
is
all the drums.
Dan Ryan is a great drummer, man. He's a great. That whole scene up in Burlington is so great, and I love it up there. But I know that we both talked about Dan Ryan for years. I know you played with him for many years, but he's one of the top guys out there to do it. So I'm sure he's into a whole bunch of good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool, man. I mean, I think that a lot of people are discovering new genres, and it's kind of, I talk about this a lot, how there's so many like little micro scenes that people aren't aware of. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
music is becoming a lot like it was, you know, 100 years ago, back in the 20s, where it was like regional. And in the same
Mm-hmm.
sense, what I mean by that is you don't necessarily need to, it's not confined by travel anymore, so you can still have the reach, like the international reach, but you don't need to
Mm-hmm.
be nationally renowned. You can find these like small pockets of people who are super into the music, and those people are far more driven to consume music than like a regular pop listener.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if
Yeah,
you
that's a really good point.
I don't know. I mean, are there some artists that you're following? Some bigger people? I don't really know much about that scene too.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not like super into any one artist. It's more so that I'll put on the genre. So via Spotify, I'll put on a playlist, and there's like tons of different ones. There's some that are more well known, and it's total mood style where it's just has a vibe. There's not like a specific guy or gal that's inspiring me. It's just a genre as a whole, and it's like a certain BPM basically. And it's kind of been like a fun experiment too, to just be like, can I recreate that? Can I like do that thing? And I'll do it, but then I'll like make it a little bit my own. Obviously, not, you know,
Sure.
it's
Yeah,
just
but
like a.
who's the Skrillex of
I
lo-fi?
don't know if
Like,
there is one.
who's the dude? Okay,
I
maybe
don't
there's
know if I don't know if there is one. I mean, like maybe I'm a bit. Maybe I'm still new to it, so I don't really know. Um,
right.
and like one of the things that kind of inspired me is like I don't know, at least with this project, as far as my aspirations go, I don't know if I'm obviously I'd love to gain followers and fans and all that stuff, but one thing that I noticed was a lot of these people, and I don't even know if there's I don't know how much or if any money there is in this, but I was thinking, you know, ideally when I was first starting, I was like, this could be a great little like side hustle for me to do while I'm not touring, because, you know, when it comes down to it, I still like super connect to playing with other humans to the point where I was a little conflicted when I started doing it, because like there was a side of me that was like, this is not the total reason I got into it, like which is connecting human to human musical idea, which I think is a whole nother conversation that we could talk about actually. That, you know, whereas, you know, there is like this breakdown a little bit that I feel like it's happening with musicians, because it's like everyone's playing in their own little spots and not connecting as much. Everyone's like just making these 10-second, 12, 15-second videos online, and like it's I don't know, it's a kind of disconnect in a way that I was a little resistant to. But anyways, that's like a whole nother tangent.
No,
Long story short,
I want to hear about more of that, but go ahead.
um, yeah, what was I saying?
Well, you're talking about how you're really into music to connect people, how that's the thing that you feel that music is supposed to do.
Right,
And that
right.
doing this, you know, putting your time to this might be taking away from that, or going against that, which is very interesting that you feel that way philosophically. Like if you're putting your time into that, you're almost taking away from sort of, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
keep
I
going.
was a
I
little
mean,
conflicted,
it's very
but I
interesting.
was a little yeah, I was a little conflicted by it, but I had the time, and I was like, well, if so many people are into this, maybe this really could be truly like a side hustle. I don't know. And so I just started doing it, and I was enjoying doing it, and you know, here we are. But I never like discovered any one person or any, you know, to answer your question, I never like discovered any one person the Skrillex of lo-fi hip hop. There's just literally so many people doing it. But a
Right.
lot of these people, when I'd go on one of these playlists, I'd see like, oh wow, this person is some 18-year-old producer in like Seattle, Washington, or across the world that, you know, they're not even posting like their bio or anything. They'll put like a little emoji in their like bio,
Mm-hmm.
but they have, you know, 500 to a million
Mm-hmm.
monthly listeners because they're on these super large editorial and non-editorial playlists that people follow. So I was like, like, is there, obviously there's no magic way to get onto these, and that's like a whole nother thing, the whole Spotify world. But I was like, maybe if I just am consistent about putting some stuff out, who knows? Like, could I be that undiscovered kid that like gets on one of those playlists and has some sort of passive income? That's like, that was one of the contributing factors to me being like, let me see if I can do lo-fi hip hop.
Or just to
Does that
have
make
your
sense?
art out there. Yeah, it totally makes sense. But just even to have your art out there. I mean, of course, we're always
Yes.
thinking about business as the side, but you are in my mind, and I think it's the truth, and I consider Dimmer to be the last bastion of truth in the music industry. But you are one of the most talented bass players, groove-based bass players in the country. So there's like no
Oh,
reason
man.
why even your sketches and your doodles shouldn't be out. Like I was talking about Jacob Collier putting his voice memo out there, you know?
Yes.
And so, and you're also talking about the composing, how you're doing it very quickly. And Jacob talks about a lot about that too. How the best
Hmm.
kind of thing, the how composition is a form of improvisation. It's improvisation slowed way down, and
Yes.
but you still have to kind of like keep at a clip, just like when you're improvising. You have to kind of like ride some sort of wave. I think that that's great. Not really spending so much time on it, not pouring over every single thing. I mean, you're in a band that arguably thinks about the minutia of their product with Cat Wright. For people that don't know about the band that you've been
Hmm.
playing with for maybe a decade now, maybe over a
About a
decade.
decade. Yep. Yep. About a
Wow.
decade.
First of all, wow.
I
Cat
know,
Wright
right?
and so talented and such a great band, and that product is so well put together. Like when something comes out from you guys, it's so polished and so tip top. So I can
Hmm.
understand maybe that's where it comes from. Maybe that's kind of what
Hmm.
you're seeing. Maybe it's not only the connection, but it's like it's scary when the stuff that you've been putting out is so polished and refined, and then it's like, well, this is just not that. It's not meant to be that. It's something totally
Hmm.
different.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good point, man. It might be psychological for me because I mean, I've to be, you know, totally transparent. I've never put out, this is the first time I've ever put out anything that's strictly my creation. You know, that's
mm,
not a collaborative effort. I've been part of some, you know, I've split some songwriting on some Cat Wright tunes over the years, but I've never put out something that's 100% Josh Weinstein. So, um, that can be like a definitely something to stop you for, you know, that can be a nervous thing to put out something, you know. Obviously it's very vulnerable to put out like your own music
mhm,
always, no
mhm.
matter the shape or size. And yeah, I don't really know where I was going with that, but that's kind of
No, I think you're totally right though. It's rough. I mean, I think the Daniel Mark thing even helps me a little bit get into an alter ego, but it's nerve
mm-hmm,
wracking. Like I put out that record, this little rock record I put out a couple months ago, which is kind of satire. It's kind of funny. It's kind of rock and roll. I put it together
totally,
during pandemic, but it's your name on it. I didn't come up with a pseudonym for it. I was like, I want,
yeah,
because at
yep,
this point, any attention that comes back to me, like all roads lead to Rome, basically at the end of the day.
totally,
People are going to
mm-hmm,
find out about my projects in a bunch of different ways. So, but yeah, totally nerve wracking. And like, I totally understand that kind of thing.
yeah,
But I enjoyed getting over that. I enjoyed, you know,
same,
when we were yeah, I'm glad. I enjoyed, the record, the EP I just put out opens up with I'm feeling kind of horny. And like I knew like most of the people that would listen to it are like just people that would just not expect that from an album. It's just like nerve wracking, like my mom
yep,
listening to that and stuff.
totally. You're like, mom, I put out this record and the first song she's gonna hear is that first track.
Oh, and
Fuck
she was
it.
like, I don't like that song. She's like, I don't like that song.
Of course, of course. Yeah,
But
yeah,
some
yeah,
people
yeah,
will, some obviously different people are gonna like. I didn't write it for my mom, obviously, and so,
yeah,
but totally like kind of feeling that way. But then it was super liberating having something like that out. It was like all this pent up energy leading up to releasing an album, and then once it's
totally.
out, it's like, okay, like
of
I don't
course.
know. It's almost anticlimactic. It's like, okay, it's out, and like, so okay, some people are will reply and say nice things or whatever. That's really
Right.
a beautiful thing. But other than that, for me, I'm not getting tens of thousands of listeners. It's a little anticlimactic after all the work you put in. But
Totally.
I think just having it out there and having it as like a timestamp, basically, like you're in
I
pandemic and
mean,
you're doing this, you're at home.
yeah.
This is the music for right now.
Yeah. And I mean, there's, like you said, I mean, having art out in the world and like knowing that it could be there, you know,
Past
forever,
you.
or, yeah, is such a nice feeling that you're contributing something. Cause, we always lay it all down on stage, and like there's those experiences that people are having in the moment. And those have always been like, really powerful experiences. I would say probably for both of us, like connecting with people on stage, but being part of your own recording creation, creating this thing that then can live in people's hearts and minds forever, and people can come back to it after you're gone it's heavy. It's
Yeah,
awesome. I'm psyched
I
to be a part
totally
of it.
I I I totally see that, and I'm glad you have stuff out. Yeah, it's kind of weird
Thanks.
knowing that like you could be dead and somebody could find you after you're dead. That's always kind of just a weird thing to think about, or have
Right?
something for
Yeah.
grandkids to listen to.
Yeah.
It's a little strange.
It's a little strange, yeah.
A
But
little
it's
strange.
cool.
Oh, it's super
Yeah.
cool. I mean, especially now, like, you have a little baby, and, like to have that, like, before they fully understand what's going on, to have that stuff for them to discover as they get older, to be like, this is what's going on. Like, remember the pandemic? I don't know if you
He's
remember that.
already he's already calling it daddy music, because we'll listen to
Right.
mixes in the car, and he knows the song, so he'll be like, daddy music. And it's just like amazing. He
Yeah,
knows when it's Cat and Bob, and he knows daddy music.
that's awesome. So are you
Yeah.
planning on putting out a full album? Is it going to
So
be, or you
the
said a
current
track
plan,
every couple months?
the current plan is like, just with the single nature of things, and also like I said about the playlists, like pitching to playlists, you can only pitch a song that is unreleased. So I'm just like, I do have an EP concept idea that's separate of covers that I could talk about in a sec, but like in general, just being consistent and just putting out a track every like 2 weeks, 1 to 2 a month, just so that it's something to just drop in the river and
Mm-hmm.
like move on, let go. And yeah, I super connect with what you're talking about, Jacob Collier. Like that is totally true. In fact, sometimes the hardest part for me with making these little beats is just like is finish putting the finishing touches on it. Like you get most of the stuff done, and then like that's the super fun creative process of music, like that we all enjoy, is like putting it all together.
Mm-hmm.
But then like you want to like it's real for me, it hasn't been
Then you
too
got to
much
find
to
the right
make.
compression, and you're going to drive yourself
you
crazy
get,
for two
you're
and a
gonna
half
drive yourself crazy. Oh my god, I know, that's exactly it. And you got to find the right like filter or whatever you're gonna do to do all these transitions and make it feel nice and automate different effects or whatever you want to do to like paint your picture. And you're just like ready to move on to the next one before that's all done. So
Yeah, I think that's
I,
totally where an engineer is super nice to have, because you can sit back and smoke a bowl
mhm,
and write the next
mhm,
song and wait for them to work
mhm.
a little and vibe out and whatever.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
just a totally different thing.
exactly.
So it's I know that too. I've been doing a lot. Like I set up this home studio, same kind of thing. Like so many people are pivoting. So many people are pivoting to real estate or whatever. But you have to pivot as far as like just musicians. Just pivot if you want to be in the game,
Yeah.
just like in any business, you have to adapt quickly. And so everybody set up their home studios. I'm always the slowest one at it. I watch everybody for like 6 months. And I'm like, yeah. And then I'll
Me
be like,
too,
oh,
man.
then I realize that I have to do it. It's
Yeah.
like, then I'm like, oh, okay. But then I
Yeah.
have to do it. So, it's just kind of waking that up. It's good. It's good inspiration that, I think a lot of people are putting out great products from home. I think there's less of an excuse for people to put out stuff as technology gets better, as we do have this time at home. That's why
Yeah.
I felt like I wanted to get something out last year. Like I was pulled off the road with JGB. My head was so in that Grateful Dead thing for like maybe 4 years. It was like such a whirlwind trip for a second.
Yeah.
And then it ended in one day, or maybe over 48 hours. It went from like, we're on this tour and we're finishing this tour, to the entire music industry is collapsing. Live Nation stock have like got cut in half. We're the
Mhm.
last bus on the road. People are actually tweeting hate mail at us that we're even still touring at this point. Like, we're actually
Hmm.
not looking good for the hippies right now. Like, we need to get home. This is not good.
Right,
And
right.
that was it. That was whatever, March 2020. So when I got home after the first 2 months of like watching other people do stuff and pivoting, then I was like, okay, I got to write some stuff. And I'm super
Hmm.
happy I did do that, kind of like put that little feather in the cap. Once you're done with all the frustration and finding the right compressors and all of that,
Yeah.
it's amazing. But
It feels good to drop it in for sure.
yeah, yeah, totally. It's like I'd say it's like taking a shit. I'm like, when you're done, it's like, oh my god, this is the most relieving thing. So and I
Yes.
I have some stuff on the show. I mean, we're working on some stuff. I can't wait that
Yeah.
we're gonna release a track, hopefully more
Yeah.
than one track this next year. But
Yes. Yes.
once I put that EP out, I was like, this is not a good time to put out music. Also, I mean, it always is a good time to show your creativity.
Hmm.
And like, if that's your goal, which I think it should be, I think that should be everybody's goal. It's never a
Hmm.
bad time. But with all the political things going on, and just how much people are like traumatized from this pandemic,
Yeah.
basically, like subtly
Yeah.
traumatized. I feel like everybody's still kind of walking around like, but nothing's like it was, everything's completely different. So
Right.
I
Right.
so I think people, it's just tough right now unless you have some super support behind you, or you're like
Right.
super into being consistent, which I'm not.
Right. Right.
I can
Right.
only ramp up for so many months, and then I'm like, it's hard. It's hard without a team
It
around you,
is.
and that's the thing. Like, it's
Yep.
probably nice when you have Kat and Bob. I don't know if you feel that way. Just kind of keeping a schedule together as well, like getting out of
Hmm.
bed, not taking the hour to just chill or be depressed or whatever, because you have two other people depending on you. Do you feel like that? Is it easier with Bob and Kat? And
Yes, I mean it's a totally different world than like the my stuff that I'm doing, but yes, 100%. For me, I'm kind of fighting for my time to do anything. It's interesting since having my kid, who's now a year and a half, since having Tommy, it's been like you get, I'm because of the pandemic, I'm unemployed, and my wife Sarah is working from home, so she's upstairs. I'm with the kid, and that's my job, and I'm sinking into it. It's really nice. There's like the provider side of me that fights it a little bit and feels like I should be doing something when I know like we'd be doing childcare if I was on the road. So like I'm saving us money in the long run. Money, 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 whatever.
mhm,
I am with Tommy, which is incredible, and like I'm getting all of these incredible moments, and I'm trying to soak them in. And then on the same side, I'm like trying to savor any minute or hour or half hour that I get to come down here or to go rehearse with them and get to do what I do, because it's just a totally flip for me than like you know years past of like just having one other person to communicate my schedule with, my wife. Now it's like it's just a new thing that I've been like adapting to, but
do you
it
think
is
you'll be
really
able to
nice
get
that,
back on the road? Do you think if things open up, even this summer, will you be able to make the
yes,
transition? Will you get a nanny, or you guys have
I
that
think so.
that plan
Well,
figured
luckily we
out?
got it. We got a pretty good support team. My mother-in-law lives in Heinsberg, which is like 25 minutes away, and she's been amazing. So she'll watch him as much. And like when we did a tour right before the pandemic closed, like a 3-week tour, and both my mom flew up, and like my mother-in-law, they stepped up big time to just like help make it happen. And he's still at home, but by the time touring resumes, presumably like preschool and like other things will start to emerge that will assist in not needing to be home with him all day anymore as well. So we're just
Mhm,
taking it as it comes.
mhm.
um but I'm super grateful for Sarah, and like you know she's letting me keep my dream alive of doing what I love.
That's amazing. You can't.
Yeah,
That's priceless in a partner. I'll tell you that much.
100%, man.
Do you think that shows are going to be happening this summer?
I think they're going to be happening. My feeling right now is they're going to be happening in the same capacity that they were this past summer. So there's going to be the drive-in thing. There's going to be the outdoor stuff, with some spaced out seating. I, you know, Bob, Cat, and I, and like the Cat crew, we were fairly fortunate this summer. Whereas a lot of people, at least in Vermont, we were able to do a bunch of outdoor stuff and outdoor shows, And while there was warm weather, we were able to get some shows. And obviously, it wasn't like a normal touring schedule, but it kind of, to be honest, was very reminiscent of our first few years as a band, where we were getting tons of offers in Vermont. We didn't have to leave the state. It was like COVID compliant. We could all meet there with our masks, and like do the thing and still make a few bucks and still get to play live, which was awesome. Particularly the trio, that and like little live streams when it was still in the early stages and everybody was like live streaming their face off.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to probably be the same thing this next summer, where it's going to be not a lot of out of state touring as far as shows go. Maybe a little bit. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's all so screwed up at this point. The whole
Yeah.
ecosystem is so bruised. So it's going to be hard at a moment's notice to pick everything up. It takes months of planning for
Yeah.
tours. So I think small things will happen. Yeah, I do think outdoor things are definitely going to happen because there's
Yeah.
just no way that they're not. But
Right.
what I don't know is then after that, going back
Yeah.
next winter, is it going to all shut down again? You just can't you can't have an ecosystem
There's no way to know.
for a venue to do something like that. Yeah, so there is no way to know, but I'm definitely as much on the pulse of it. The problem is like every 3 months since March 2020, everybody's like, "Oh, it's coming back now. It's coming back now." There's always like some hope, and shows start getting booked. They're like some things start to rattle around, and then inevitably, as we got close to it, things would just crumble. It happened with JGB. It happened with any show that I was playing on. And so after a
Mhm.
while, you get desensitized to that too, and then you get the call, and it's like, "Oh, it's happening." You're like, "All right, you know."
I
So
know,
it still
man.
doesn't feel real. And then the other thing, again, like I'm saying, it takes months to plan it. So I don't know. It's gonna be crazy. There's a huge gap. There's kind of like this middle gap that the whole live music scene relies on. It's like the
Mhm.
jam band scene, the live music scene, is the tertiary market of the music industry, right? It's like you
Mhm.
have Live Nation concerts and like huge
Mhm.
sponsored concerts, and you have the tier below that, which is basically people that are working in clubs making their money on live music trying to get to theaters, right? Trying to get to trying to
Mhm.
get to Red Rocks. We're trying to play Red Rocks, or like we
Mhm.
want to be able to fill those kind of those kind of numbers. And that's exactly the size venue that is the most hurt by all of this stuff that's going on. It's the theater
Totally.
and the clubs. It's like, so I don't know, it's
I
been
know.
BSP closed, done,
They closed.
done.
Oh
There's no
man.
way.
I don't know how they would have survived anyway. They didn't get like PPP loans for a little while and stuff and
haven't been there in years,
yeah.
but I talked to Trevor, and so I'm sure he got some stuff, and he was trying, but it was such a huge uphill battle,
Damn.
and it was that mixed with what's going on in Kingston right now, which is a whole other crazy story because Kingston spot got blown up basically.
Oh shit.
Somebody told our secret and was like, everybody move here. And so a lot of people
Everybody
moved
did.
here very quickly. And yeah, and it happened at the worst time. It happened right as COVID hit.
Mm.
Arguably it might have been sustainable, but it's just not with COVID hit, and it's just making the whole gap, and a lot of things crumbled. Restaurant, obviously, like every town, restaurants crumbled. I saw this kind of crazy thing happen to Kingston, so we'll see. There's a huge gap for a 500-person venue, but
Yeah. We've been talking about that. We're like super the other last night or the night before, whenever it was, we were saying even when it does come back, all of the venues that we've cultivated these relationships with and are counting on to
oh
go
yeah,
back to, are they
new
are they
owners.
going to be open? Yeah.
Yeah, if they're open, is it the same person? It's going to be a new owner. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
or a new promoter. I mean, even Brooklyn Bowl, they have money, they have Shapiro money, and I tried to get in touch with them right after tour, and most of the people that I knew were let go. I mean, of course they had to fire down to a skeleton crew. I don't blame them for that, but if Brooklyn Bowl is having problems, if Brooklyn Bowl, who has a place in London, a place in Vegas,
Vegas, yeah.
if they're firing everybody down to the skeleton crew and having problems, it's not easy for other people to survive. So I knew BSP probably
Yeah.
wouldn't make it through next year, but I was hoping. Now it's like, now that it's actually, you see the closed signs, it's terrible.
That's
It's like,
hard to see, man.
Yeah, it's like losing a family member or something. You're like,
I know.
my buddy Mo and I were talking about it. We're like, it's like, oh, we wish we could have done more. Wish we could have said goodbye. Wish we could have done one more show, because you don't realize, um, like any,
Yeah,
you don't realize what you have till it's gone. Like we could put
100%.
show there anytime, play there anytime. It was like our personal hang. It was pretty amazing
Wow,
for a while.
for sure.
So it's a whole different
No,
world.
that's
So I don't know. I didn't I when I left the club 5 years ago, I never thought I'd want to run another club or ever even be in another club. I was so disenchanted with it. But now I'm 5 years away from that. It's just funny how life turns around. Like you're just like, I kind of miss being over
totally,
there.
man.
So that's
Yeah,
just always the grass being greener. But you know, when you're on the road for 5 years and like living like that and traveling and your car is constantly breaking and you're gassing up all the time, you're spending all this money and you're tired. There's nothing better than being at home. And then, try and be at home for 2 or 3 years and like itching to be on the road and itching to get out of
I
state.
know, man. It's a balance thing for sure. We're all out of balance right now.
Yeah. But maybe it's putting us, maybe it's like forced balance. I think a lot of people are realizing like family is important. Everybody reevaluated all their priorities and all their values. Like
Mm-hmm.
what's really good, especially when it was like fresh, when people are like, are we gonna lose like a lot of people, like our friend,
Right.
when it was really scary, when they were like, well, you have to put the groceries on this side of the table because
Totally.
the Lysol hasn't. That was kind of a scary month.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but like, there was when that happened, I mean, we definitely touched base a few times, but in addition to that, there was like this whole for a few months there, the Zoom thing was like blew up. Everybody's like Zooming friends that they haven't talked to in a long time and catching up and having these big online virtual hangs because I think that was the mentality of just like, well, who the hell knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, people were like drinking, having like Cosmos on, getting 6 people on Zoom for 40 minutes at a time.
Totally. Totally. Or making it like a weekly thing, or talking with their family more regularly. It definitely reevaluated people's
Totally, but
priorities, that's for
it
sure.
doesn't feel totally like
It's faded away a little bit.
faded away a little bit.
Yeah,
I
no,
feel
that's faded away big time,
big time.
right?
Why is and
Yeah.
so is that because people are just don't appreciate it anymore, or is it too much for some people?
I think it's a little bit of fatigue. Like just people are COVID
Mm,
fatigue. I think that's like I don't know if that's
COVID
a
fatigue.
that's
Oh,
a
it
Josh
is.
Weinstein diagnosis right there. COVID
Right, right.
fatigue, people. You got the COVID fatigue. You're not talking to your friends regularly anymore. You got the COVID fatigue.
Yeah, it's just I think just humans are not supposed to work this way. I think musicians
No.
are maybe even better geared toward it. Like we can be hermits for a second, or like we were super happy. I think
Yeah.
musicians that last summer even were like, it's not so bad. We're like, oh, we're hanging out.
Totally,
Stimulus
dude.
check. I'm like home with my girl and I'm like growing vegetables.
Yeah.
But you don't realize all the layers of it sometimes, and I do think it really is devastating for some people. People like I look up to somebody like you who I feel like, and maybe it's not even true, it's just the ideal that I have of you is like very chill and adaptable and like, okay, like
Sure.
it's a pandemic, like and so I look to you, I look to that attitude like, all right, like, okay, we got to figure it, like we
Everything's
have
cool.
to anyway. What's the alternative to like riding the wave? There's
100%.
so
Yeah.
I try and get into that
Everyone's
mindset.
got their their shit,
But
Everyone's
some
dealing
people
with
are
their own shit.
sure, and
But
it's
some
all
people are
relative.
definitely worse off and you can see it
Yes,
like
that's what I'm saying. Some people can't handle it like us. Some people, I'm quietly, and there's days where I might be depressed or I think about it, but at least I have the wherewithal to be like, I'm depressed, and why? Or like maybe I can even get a song out of that. There's people that don't have the outlet
I
like
know.
that.
I know. Maybe it's a
So,
count your blessings gratitude thing that
yeah.
we were gifted. I don't know, or
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that me and you have.
Yeah, I don't know.
I definitely have. I definitely have the count your blessings itis. I count my
Yeah, I don't know if
blessings.
that was instilled by the mom. I don't
Could,
know.
could very well be. I don't know. My mom complains about a lot of negative things too.
Yeah, that's true. But
But it is count your
yeah,
blessings.
same.
Maybe it's the Jewish thing. I don't know. Maybe it's the Jewish
That's what I'm
from
getting
you
at.
count
Maybe
your
it's a Jew
blessings.
thing.
Is that what you're getting at? Yeah, we're both
I think
tribe.
that's what
We're
I'm
both
getting.
tribe members.
Yeah, that's it.
It's definitely count your blessings. I mean, it's count your blessings every day. And I think about that. I mean, when I get into a weird headspace, like I immediately go to like some war torn country in my mind. Like I'm like, it ain't
100%.
that. It ain't
Yep.
that. I'm figuring out, I'm like, it ain't that. Not even
Yeah.
close to that. So, America is a beautiful thing. It's so tough. The last year, I've never been more conflicted in my whole life, politically, like I've never been, or socially. I've never been more conflicted in my whole life, man. Seeing this stuff go down, anything that I thought in my mind, and I think, I don't know if you think this about me, but I think that I've kept it pretty much A1 since day one. I think everybody grows up and changes a little bit, but I think I've always kind of been Sternstein since I'm like 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but what was I saying? I mean, so I've always been that same kind of person. I was saying I lost my train of thought. I was hoping you'd tell me that I was A1 since day one.
You are A1 since day one. Since as much as I've known you, you are Sternstein.com. You've been solid as a rock, baby.
Well, thank you. I don't know where I was going with that,
Yeah.
but
No
yeah,
worries.
it ain't easy. It ain't freaking easy. Oh, so I've never been more conflicted. That's
Oh, yeah,
what I
yeah,
was
yeah.
saying. And it's just not easy. And so I've just felt so much like a part of a certain group. I think or certain groups throughout my life. And this pandemic has taught me, that it's just not that easy for me. And I've been quiet. I've been quiet a lot. It's weird for me. I have this kind of like this kind of dichotomy because I want to run the podcast. I want to bring education to people. I want to bring
Yeah.
value to people. I love telling stories. I certainly have a lot of interesting friends. But the other thing is
Mm-hmm.
like I also want to be pretty quiet most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For maybe it's the part of it is not wanting to be ridiculed, and I think that this podcast is forcing me to get over that.
I like it. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's like you kind of just have to speak up at the end of the day, and it's kind of holding me accountable for that. For
Um,
the few people that tune in and that have been tuning in. I want this place to be a place where we can talk, and so I have to kind of say some stuff. I don't talk about everything. I think people kind of know where I stand most of the time.
yeah. Yep. I know exactly what you're saying, man. I've definitely felt that same thing. Especially,
And people get
just like
canceled.
I
But
know. It's real, man. I've got friends, man. It's canceling is a real thing. I
yeah,
know
I
people
mean
getting canceled.
it's
Like
crazy.
I
And
good friends getting canceled.
yeah,
So
yeah, totally. I mean, I saw it started with when Nako. I mean, we're saying like canceled with quote. I mean, I also think that like people come on back, and this is the hope that this is giving me. And so here's me talking when I probably shouldn't be talking, but like Nako getting canceled, and it's rough, and I don't know what happened with him, but I'm mostly of the opinion that like things should get taken care of privately, especially like legal matters. If he did something
hmm,
illegal, he should be held accountable for it.
I've
But if he
not. This is
Oh, you
unknown to
didn't hear
me. I
about
know
Nako?
nothing
Do you
about.
even know do you even know who I'm talking about?
I know who Nako is. I know his medicine people.
Oh man, it's crazy. So yeah, I woke up one morning and like everybody's supposed to hate Nako. And he stood up for such, positivity and change. And so that brings the whole question of
What
like,
happened? Was he a Trump guy? Is that what happened?
no, 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 you can get canceled for anything these days. He apparently was having sex with his fans.
Oh,
I
musicians been
didn't
doing
know.
that for a
Yeah,
long time.
I didn't know that wasn't normal in the music industry. So
Right.
apparently he was having sex. So okay, this is where people are going to get pissed, and probably this is where people are going to get pissed. But I didn't know, and so if it's a legal matter, I'm just of the opinion that he should be held accountable in a court of law, and then you vote with your wallet. You don't have to buy from his thing ever again.
Totally.
And the story will ring true. However, to drag him along publicly for something that might not even be illegal, that might be something that everybody else is guilty of too, was a little crazy. Was a little
Hmm.
sad. So I don't know the whole story. This is just what I'm gleaning from the facts. So it could very well be that he was up to no good, and if he was, then yeah, somebody should report him if the girl was underage or there was reports
Right.
of grooming. Sure. it
Right,
hits
right.
home when it comes into the jam band community. The reason I say it gives me hope is that, okay, he took 6 months off and now he's just kind of back. It was his birthday. He was like, okay, I'll shut up for a minute. And he didn't do anything for 6 months. And the things they were saying on his comments were horrible. You got to be
Oh
really
man,
strong because,
take it.
yeah, like, accusing people of rape and stuff like that. I think rape is a horrible, horrible thing to accuse somebody of. That's the worst thing you could do to a person. And so I don't, if he didn't do it, that's a pretty horrible thing to say to somebody. So anyway,
Sure.
that kind of thing. So he took 6 months off, was completely quiet, and now he's kind of like, "Oh, I've been chilling." And then it's like, okay, I'm back. And people are just like, oh, I love you. And the people that are voting with their wallet won't be supporting him. And the people that were his tribe or just happen to like his music or new people will go ahead and do that. I think he's earned that. I think in
Mm-hmm.
America, you've earned that. Again, unless he did something wrong. And then I saw the whole thing with Zach Deputy too. Like
Mm-hmm.
horribly torn about that too. But I got into it on Facebook, and I put one quote up, and that was it. I had everybody attacking me on the
Mm-hmm.
thing, and I was just kind of like, maybe we should wait. Maybe we should wait and see like what was up. Like there was a lot of stupid people there. There was a lot of
Sure.
people that weren't rioting there too. So, and I hate
Mm-hmm.
Trump. I think everybody knows I'm pretty middle of the ground about all this. I always felt like I was so middle of the ground, or even left. Like I feel like I'm like, like I'm in the music industry, like we're all hit, like of course we all stand for like the same kind of thing, but then I watch a lot of people just get savage with it because we're so divided right now, because the country
I
is just
know.
so divided,
I know. What do you
and we
think's
don't
gonna
have rock
happen, man?
concerts,
I know. What did you say?
to heal. What do I think is going to
Yeah,
happen?
that's a big thing. That's a big thing, man. The
Of
music brings
course.
people together 100%. Now that's gone. People are getting more and more divided.
Of course, absolutely. I think it's a
Yeah.
huge thing, like music and gatherings like that, and having people having an outlet to either party or get that out. Plus,
Totally.
when music's doing what it's really supposed to be doing, I was just talking about this a lot. When music's doing what it's really supposed to be doing, you see all the beauty and all the pain of the universe. And if one is like receptive enough to it, the real message in music that's being applied right is like, of course, like all the ideals of of life and beauty, like uh, you know all of that.
Life is music, they say, man.
Yeah, and you only need to listen to one Derek Truck solo. He doesn't have to say a word to be like, oh, that's the universe. Like,
Mm-hmm.
right, like it's beautiful and imperfect and continuous and has depth. It's like, say no more, say less, fam.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do think, of course, there's no rock concert. So yes, what do I think is going to happen? Do I think people are going to be more divided? Is that what
Well,
you're?
yeah, yeah. I guess so. I guess that was my question. Like, what's
Yeah, I don't know. I
people were
hope
talking? I hope not. I don't.
hope
Yeah,
not. I hope not. It's bad right now. It's definitely
I
super
know.
bad right now. And but that's why I want to speak up. That's why, like, even on here, forgive me. I think people that have come on this podcast don't always know what we're going to get into, because I don't know whatever I'm going to talk about. I
Yeah,
don't even
that's
come
the
with
whole thing.
notes.
Yeah, it's a conversation, man. You don't know what's coming.
Yeah, it's really just I started this just to archive conversations, just so I had it, because there's conversations that I just wish I had, from
Mm-hmm.
years ago. And so this was just kind of way to just encapsulate and have it. So that's really where this whole thing started from, is really with Jan Rico, who we played with both. I mean, Jan Rico, rest his soul, he's like the inspiration for so many of the projects I've been doing, because I swear to God, I hear him in my head being
Oh
like
man,
yeah, like if I'm slacking off too hard, I can hear him in my head. Like, damn, what's going on
damn.
with the podcast? When you start in season 2 with the podcast? I'm like, oh, that's right, that's right, that's right. Because it really was that. It was that I did the master class with Jan Rico at BSP, and I had like 8 or 9 people there, and Jan Rico gave this so typically Jan Rico master class, which is like same kind of thing. He doesn't need to say it for you to get it. He's like music. He was and is. He's like music in motion. Like he lived like that. And I think those are the best musicians. It's like he's playing drums all day long. Like he's just like following the groove. He was tapped into the groove all day long. And then just sitting
Mm-hmm.
down at the drums, it was like, oh, what's like, I just got to tap in here. I just like got to, what's happening over here. And so he
Yep.
did this so typically Enrico thing where he was like so erratic and explaining things halfway and like, you know, going into like little drums and like, and my mind was fucking blown. I was like, oh my god, it was the same kind of thing. I was like, this is like a Derek Truck solo. This masterclass is like a solo. I'm like, this is the best thing ever, and I don't have it recorded. So
And so that was like the thing that was like, well, maybe I should start
sure.
recording these kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. I think after he passed, then you know, I realized I was like, fuck, like I didn't do more with Enrico. That was a huge
Mm,
thing. We got some stuff. There's some stuff that's released and some stuff that I just have on my hard drive, but it certainly wasn't anywhere close to enough, you know, or what he and I were talking about. I was hawking him to be on the next record. I was like, I got to get down to Atlanta and just like just let me play one
I
line, let me play
remember
rhythm guitar on like one track on your next record. So when he
totally.
passed, you know, that's the same thing. You like, it's like BSP. It's like you're just like wish I could have done more. Wish I could have said something. Wish I could have told you know, showed love one more time. Anyway, so I was thinking about that, and that was it. I was like, oh, I'm definitely got to start recording stuff. I bought a microphone for my dad and an interface, and I was like, start recording your voice, like just start singing. It really kind of
Yes.
crystallized to me, and I was and just like you know you're talking about is like just to have it there and just to put your drop in the well. It's valuable for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
It's valuable for
It's
people.
healing. It can be healing for people, and something like that, like recording your dad. That's a great idea because you know when they're gone, man, you'll have that. Sarah has this one recording of her brother who passed away when you know she was in high school, and like cherishes that recording, and you know
Absolutely.
doesn't have many, and like that's yeah, it's really good. It's a good point.
That's the thing. And my dad has such a beautiful voice, but he does all of his. The thing with Jewish singers and cantors is they're always performing on Sabbath, on Shabbat. And so camera, at least in, you know, in my dad's temple, cameras and recording are like strictly verboten. You get like you can't record
Mm,
that. And then who wants to
yeah.
my dad would never want to listen to it because then it was recorded on Shabbat. It's like it was always
Yeah.
like a little
True.
too much. And then I could never didn't want to set up what I put in my like be like a taper, put it in my pocket. Never did that. Now looking back, I'm like, that's so stupid. I should have done that. I should have had the tape the whole time. I should have been recording every single time I was at a Saturday service.
Yeah.
You know, because same kind of thing. It's like, you know, that's like a Grateful Dead taper. You're like capturing the moment that's right there. And this is the big thing I've been thinking about that was just touching on this a few minutes ago, and I want to get your thoughts on it.
Sure.
And that's about improvisation and the headspace of improvisation. And a lot of people, and I go back and forth with this, but I recently rediscovered something inside myself that made me bring this out. But
Mm,
people ask me, if students ask me, like, how do I improvise? Um, or I'll ask like a student, you know, play something for me. You know, like I'll play a chord, like play something for me. And like immediately they'll like play the blues licks that they know, and like they're just like getting into that thing. It clicked, it dawned on me, and this is probably the seventh time it's dawned on me, but it happens every year and couple months. It dawned
mm-hmm.
on me that that's the absolute wrong way to improvise.
Mm,
Anything that you could possibly be doing like that is playing music from the past.
mm-hmm.
You're playing from your memory, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you start getting into a place, well, here's the thing. If you don't love that, if you're playing something from the past, like blues licks, and you don't love it, it feels tired, it's gonna translate tired to other people. You know, it's one thing if you're
Mm-hmm.
playing a blues lick and you absolutely love it because you've been, you know, and you're soaking it up. But most people, they're like, this is what I know. That's the wrong way to improvise. You're playing stuff from the past. And so what I like to do is, and this comes from really the Frank Zappa school that I take from and I put into this Grateful Dead thing again. I have these two completely opposing worlds and philosophies of thought. But the Frank Zappa school of improvisation is to sort of be able to tap into the present. And the way that he does that, and that Dweezil explains that he does that, is making up mathematical structures
Mm,
to sort of get you into that headspace. And so what he'll do is he'll play, I wish I had a guitar with me, but like he'll play sets of two. He, you know, he calls it like the musical binary code. So instead of ones and zeros for a computer, it's twos and threes. Like everything in music is either a two or a three,
mm-hmm.
basically. And so you can
Mm-hmm.
put twos and threes together to make fives, sevens, nines, 11s in any which way. And so he'll play sets of twos and threes to sort of get him in this space. Take a scale or whatever. You can take a simple scale, like pentatonic scale, pentatonic minor scale, but you start getting into creating music that's happening right now. It could never happen like that again once you start, thinking at that and thinking at the edge of that. And
Mm.
as soon as I started playing like that, and I don't play the blues riffs, I immediately feel better about my soloing. I feel more creative, and I get more compliments about my soloing. I don't know. So my question to you is,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you think about that, or what you think about improvising, or any just general thoughts. I mean, what do you think about that idea? How playing those blues licks are inevitably playing things from the past?
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. The Zappa school approach. I've never heard of that before, and that I am definitely going to try that. For for me, it's I'm coming from a slightly different place. So keep in mind, I'm playing bass, and so unlike guitar, and anybody who's played both instruments would probably know what I'm talking about, which is that you're playing guitar, you can take a moment here and there to just like play one chord and let it ring out and like get distracted by your thoughts. Or I mean, everybody gets distracted by their thoughts, but like take a breather. You can let the groove go and you can take a minute. The bass is pretty much always on. I mean, it's so immersed in the present, at least for me, that I don't really have much chance to stay away from the present. It's so therapeutic for me
Mm,
playing music. I'm always like boom, and the more comfortable I've gotten playing, the easier it is to have my mind wander. But at the same time, I think it's probably one of the reasons why I love playing the bass so much is because I allow myself to sink into a groove, listen to what's going around me, and interact it in the most present way I can. You know, and sometimes that means just not changing a thing and doing the same thing for you know
mhm.
2-3 minutes, however long that groove feels like it's going to go. And then I just it's just a it's improvisation is such a hard thing to talk about because it's like it's such a conversation. And with the bass particularly, not that the guitar isn't the same thing, but I do feel like there's this bridge between I'm getting pulled by the drummer in one way rhythmically, and then I'm getting pulled by the guitar player harmonically in another way. If
Mm,
someone's like, for instance, taking a solo and
mhm,
they're saying something and they're like, listen to this, and I'll follow that. But then the drummer's like, listen to this. And sometimes the better that I've gotten, or the more proficient I've gotten at my instrument, I feel like I've been able to kind of direct both, almost like kind of feel like the conductor in many ways, to be like, actually guys, we're going here, and I'm going to lead us here, and up here's this turn we're going to take up here. And by playing that one note, everybody then sees the tunnel ahead, or the light at the end of the tunnel of where we're going to go. I
mm,
kind of feel like I'm like the train conductor sometimes, who's like switching um the tracks, if that makes
mm.
any sense. I don't
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
um
And I know from playing with you that you're great at that. There's a lot of people that can introduce a note, maybe even like just a dominant seventh, like going from a five to a one, and
mhm.
you don't know the direction that the bassist is going in. It feels like they're just playing an arpeggio. Where I know with you, like, um, it's gonna mean something. Like we're
Yeah,
playing. It's like immediately like, like he meant to do that because we can just feel where the
yeah,
gravity is hitting.
totally.
So I
Yeah.
think that's why you're a great bass player, because you always feel, you as a guitar player playing on top of you, you always feel so completely present.
Mm.
So you just feel comfy in that thing. Like
Mhm,
you want to
mhm.
play, you want a band, like any band, you just want a band that like holds you in their hands.
Totally. You
And
feel
it's
safe. Yeah.
and the bass player plays a humongous role in that, because you're moving so much air and you're down at the bottom and it's all groove based. And
Totally.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder, I mean, are you thinking about that kind of stuff as you are you thinking about like the circle of fifths, going to something else? What are you
You,
thinking about when you finally step up to the plate and say, I'm gonna show you guys. Actually, I see where you guys are going, but let me show you something real quick.
yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of it is from studying jazz and playing through changes and feeling the motion of how bass lines and walking bass lines contribute to the changing of chords. And so when I'm getting from one chord to another, there's X unlimited amount of ways to get there. Um, and when I was studying more and playing more jazz bass, I guess you could call it, I was just immersed in that and doing it all the time and playing that music. And so now that's kind of, absorbed into me in a way. So now when I hear a certain thing, I just don't if I don't question it, it's often the best. When just like anybody else, and just like what you were talking about, if I'm like regurgitating a thing that I've learned, then I think it probably comes off a little bit more forced and a little less natural. And um, it's hard to, because you're not really thinking. But when you are, let's see. I don't know if I really have a good answer for this.
Well, because I think that you are like one of the master. I think that you do it more effortlessly than many other people that I know do it. I think
Thanks,
you
buddy.
I think you have more of an innate sense of that. And I think that for me, I don't. I'm always like I'm always kind of need that reconnecting. But there's core principles that I always keep in mind. And like some of those core principles are like, if I'm not having fun, there's no way that I can be transferring joy to anybody through these sound, through these guys. There's just no way.
So right? True.
I think a lot. Well, okay. Well, I'm glad you agree with me on that, because a lot of people lie to themselves. A lot of people lie to themselves, and a lot of people, and so you can get away with it. Maybe you can get away with it for a few shows. Like, have there been shows where I hate just about everything that I've played? Yeah, definitely. And have I smiled to the crowd to get through it? Sure. Did they know? Maybe not. But it's not really. I also had 5 other guys, helping out, like pushing the good vibes forward. So that might have drowned out me, but it certainly wasn't me doing my job. You have to get to a point when you're playing music in an ensemble or alone. I do believe that the only way, whether you have to lie to yourself to believe it, or like, you have some sort of tricks to get into it, the only way that you can spread joy through the vibes coming out is to actually have joy within you.
Totally.
It's a little hippie. It's a little hippie to think like that.
I completely identify with that. And part of the way I've always approached playing music with other people is to smile a lot, smile at them, and bring out their joy, and then it just becomes contagious. And if everyone's having a good time,
that's why I love you in the Zach band. That's why I love you with Zach.
Thanks,
because
man.
You're the biggest smiler, and if he's ever in a bad mood, you have this infectious smile.
Yeah,
and it kind of at least lets it up for whatever. Let's get
through this. Because come on, we're playing music, man. We're so lucky to be playing music. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so you need to have both. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's got it all. I commend Zach. I talk about Zach a lot on this podcast too, because I've played so much music with him, and I have thoughts and philosophies about how he approaches the instrument. I've met a lot of people through him, and he's got a lot. He's, I think he's a really talented guitar player, but he takes his shit super seriously, and he takes that band super seriously. And when you're in that headspace, like, yeah, he knows how to have a good time too. We've had our fights, and we've been friends, and but it almost gets in his own way, taking it so seriously. But do you need that seriousness to go as far as he had, to have the work ethic that he has, to be as bullish as he did, to get as, to do all the business things that need to be done? Yeah, I think that those are humongous advantages to have. And so many great musicians are like meek, that I know. Like the age of like the Miles Davises are just like gone.
100%.
I don't mean even the genius. Yeah, I don't mean I just mean in the like the badassery of it all.
I totally know what you're saying.
And so but you're from New York. I mean, we got a little bit of it. I have so much of it. I can't even live in Vermont. I tried to live in Vermont, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here.
I have been softened up big time, brother. Like I am it's so funny now. I go back to New York, and I'm like, it's always been like this thing where, yeah, back in New York, like feels good, like. And every time I leave New York, I definitely leave with a little bit more fire than when I came with.
Sure,
but
it does that.
it just does that to you. But it
But
gets
you're
dampened
a
pretty
big softie
quick.
from Vermont.
I've gotten soft, and I don't think of myself as a meek person, but you know, speaking up and like being confrontational and doing all those things, I'm definitely a people pleaser, and it's like one of those things that is one of, I would say, the older I've gotten, the people pleaser thing I think is a flaw that I would love to focus on being better about, like really speaking my mind if I feel strongly about something. And if someone pushes me or like is a total dick to me, I won't tolerate it. Like if
Right.
they're but you have to push pretty
But
freaking
yeah, I was gonna
hard.
say you have a pretty high tolerance, I think.
You have to like be Aaron Sabag, who squirts me with chocolate milk from his super soaker when I'm however years old,
Right.
to get me to like attack you or like really lose my shit on you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Much love to Aaron Sabag. He never really did anything wrong, but we were just
No,
like,
no, no. He was a great guy. Or like you
definitely
have to
fucked around with.
be Davo, who's slashing me with a hockey stick while
Right,
playing
right.
hockey and like really going for it and like not making, all of a sudden that's not fun anymore. Like we're not having fun. You're like going for me. I'm
Right.
done. I'm gonna raise my voice. It's so funny because I'll scream like it's I'll scream in the house if I get really frustrated at something. I'll have like a moment, an outburst or something of frustration, usually about the stupidest shit. But it'll happen if like
I
if I
can't even picture you screaming, but okay.
exactly.
I
That's my
can't even
point.
picture it in my head. I've never
That's
seen
my
never
point.
seen you
And
freak
like,
screaming.
Kat says the same thing, Bob. They're like, "What?" But Sarah's seen it,
Right.
and she thinks it's the most like psycho thing ever when it happens because it's, just doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. And that's my point basically, is that yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah. I don't know. Well, I don't know what the point was, but I love hearing about it. I just never. So you say that you don't consider yourself a meek person, but the people pleasing thing is something that you might want to work on a little bit, and you get
Sure.
frustrated
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I don't know really where I was going with the
I don't
screaming
get
thing.
frustrated. I see. I'm pretty on. See, I keep the baseline pretty high. Like I'm always apt to freak out, but I think because I keep my baseline much higher than yours, I really don't freak out that much. Like
I
a lot of
remember
things
I
can.
can't remember last time I saw you freak out,
I don't
man.
really freak out that much. I let things go wrong because I have that kind of thing where it's like, yo, we're gonna get through this day too. Like the Nazis are not here. They're not knocking on the door. Like it's fine. And nobody, no, I love. There's like some TikTok video I saw where it's like a guy and he's just like, like I found out today that you can wake up and you can do whatever you want. You can just wake up and do whatever you want the whole day. Like, and the whole
Yeah.
day you can do that, and then you can just go to bed.
Yeah.
It's like mind blowing. I mean, I know it's a little different when you have a kid, but the message is very much the same. So I'm
Mm.
always like, oh, you know what? We have. So I feel so lucky. That's
Yeah.
why I kind of do this podcast, and I'm not. Again, this is my live exercise into not chasing the likes and not chasing anything like that. It's
Yeah.
saying what I want to say. It's saying that I don't feel like Nako or Zach Deputy deserve all the shit that they got.
Mhm.
Ooh, it feels good. But it's just like, that's just this is kind of a live exercise in it, and because of that, I've actually met a lot of different people who understand that I'm coming from actually like a very reasonable place. Anybody that talks to me understands I'm not some crazy person on either side. I'm not even very political,
Mhm.
and I have a strong sense of justice. I know what I feel is right and wrong. I'm sensitive as hell. You probably know that about me.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm a sensitive boy. But anyway, yeah, it's just this is it. This is me being able to say that this is almost art. This is another form of making music for me, like having this conversation. It's like its own
Yeah.
symphony. It's a symphony of ideas.
Well, it's still
How
improv. Your
weird.
brain is still going, and you're like trying to stay present with it, and you got to focus, and it's a practice, man.
Yeah, totally. It's very interesting doing it. So I really appreciate doing this. I love doing this show. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I appreciate you coming on the show and just kind of talking your thing, man.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Telling me about the project.
Yeah.
It's why I wanted to start this new season with you because I just feel so comfy and I feel like I said in the beginning of the episode, you're one of those. You're A1 since day one. You've been at it. I feel like we've both been on a really incredible journey on one hand, but on the other hand, it's like still the same old
I,
shit. Like I'll
I
call you in 15
know.
minutes, we'll set up the Zoom meeting and blah blah blah. We'll talk about whatever's happening.
I know.
Whatever.
It's a trip, man. We've been doing it for a long time, you know? We've met a
Yeah.
lot of cool people, checked off a lot of boxes that we definitely talked about when we were like 14, 13 years old, however old we were.
You just checked off the Ryman this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That
mean,
was huge.
it's stuff we forget how quickly we forget. That is something
Yeah.
I'm blown away. I mean,
Me
you
too, man.
completely deserve it, but you just hear that name, you're like, oh, okay, they got a date at the Ryman. Okay, like it's
Yeah.
happening, brother.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then like just the circle becoming smaller and bigger, like
Yeah,
the contracting circle is like that's the trippiest thing, man. And working with heroes and, getting we're all just everyone's just doing their thing, man.
it's doing their thing. Well, I think our circle is really special. It's
Mhm.
another reason why like I want you on. I'm gonna have Alex Budney on in a
Oh,
couple
you
weeks.
should. He's the best, man.
Bessie has a great story, and I really feel in my heart of hearts that I've been so blessed to meet so many of the people that I've met and be given the experience that I have. We have a pretty cool circle. We,
100%.
like if we were younger, we'd all have a TikTok house, but we're
Right.
just not. We're just not of that. We're not of that age. So I'm trying to figure out, where get in where you fit in, but the stories and the lessons learned and the characters alone, even just the funny stories, forget all the morals and the lessons learned, just the funny stories alone on the road are enough to were enough to keep me on the road, which is not easy. It's not an easy life. And so that's the kind of stories I want to have on here, and just be able to try and shed and shine some light. I think a lot of people also think that the music industry is like shrouded in mystery. And I even went to school for
Mhm.
my degree is called it's right here. I have a bachelor of arts in music industry
Right.
with a minor in music. That's so strange. So you know, the thing is that I learned a lot. I learned a lot in college, and I met a lot of cool people. And certainly, I wouldn't have opened up BSP without any of that. Without being in school and everything, and that whole trip wouldn't have happened. But I didn't know anything about the music industry when I left
Totally.
college. It was like so many people. There's this, like I said, we're in this sort of tertiary market. It's like the
Mhm.
original Instagram influencers. It's like influencers without Instagram.
Mhm.
Like all those bands that did it those last 10 years, the Humphreys McGee and the Moes of the world, they did it in this weird niche kind of thing. They're not world famous. Well, had a record label, but Mo, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Mo, but they had a major record label. But there's a lot of people that like right around there never got a record label, did this
Mhm.
whole thing through live music. It's completely amazing. And I hope it's not I hope there's a place for it when all this comes back. I hope because things are shifting. I mean, I know that there'll be a place for it, but the landscape shifts. People are on TikTok. There's a whole like new generation of kids coming up, and they're just like into different stuff. And so that's one of the big things of I think being not so much being an artist, but being in the industry is keeping your finger on the pulse of these different things. So even if
Yeah.
I think art always stays true, like good art will always remain. But how's anybody going to know about your art?
Yeah, how are the artists going to survive? I was listening to somebody
Mm,
talk about it today with like, with the TikTok culture and the people like I kind of hinted at this much earlier and I think I lost my train of thought about it, but that people are making these little, with the some of like our heroes and greats if like they were around today and like if they were our age trying to come up um making a record if you don't have the home studio and doing all these things is like super super expensive. It's really hard. You're competing with these people that are just doing like these 15-second 30-second little clips and like that's what the so many people are digesting and that's what they're wanting
yeah,
and it's a hard world to navigate it like people will obviously make music for music's sake and for art's sake always, but people got to get paid too and it's hard. Like
yeah.
it's a hard time.
It's hard. It's hard. I think the adapting is necessary, and I'm slow at it. So I come
Me
up with
too.
I come up with other ways. And like, I know I'm probably not going to be a TikTok, even though I've made like I've spent a morning and I've made a couple like random TikToks and kind of like got okay with the I don't spend a lot of time with it. I think it's really good to explore, but I came up with different ways, and this is the only way that I've survived. And I want to be completely transparent about this to people too, because everybody wants to know. Certainly, the stimulus checks helped. Certainly, the unemployment helped. But what I realized what I needed to do was I needed to keep hustling so that I could keep networking and keep meeting people. Didn't matter
True.
if I was in my room. And so that's part, of this podcast. It's like every time I talk to somebody, their network, they put it out. And this is on a micro level, people. I'm talking about just get you and maybe a small team survive. I'm not talking about being Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about a very doable thing, because I feel if I can do it at the at the gumption level that I have at any certain day when I'm just working with myself, anybody can do it. And that is so to say, this podcast has been great. I've two things happen. It becomes an internship for me, or like an apprenticeship, I should say. I learn things from everybody that I talk to on here, and
Sure.
I make sure that the only people that I have on here are people who I think are interesting or I have something to learn from.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is like you're gonna, maybe put this on your Instagram or whatever, and a couple people will tune in and listen to a part of it, and you know, and see that and discover whatever it is I'm doing. And then hopefully, if they don't like the podcast, maybe they'll listen to a tune I put out and be like,
Totally.
that's fucking amazing. I really love that tune. And I didn't think this guy was doing that kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have all sorts of different kinds of music too. And I think about that. I'm like, oh, I have the rock and I have this. I'll put this instrumental out and I'll do this. I thought it was a weakness 2 years ago. And just like this being a live exercise and kind of getting out of that mindset, I just got over that too. And I was like, what's the difference? I don't have a record label saying that I have to make like something that sounds like John Mayer, or something that sounds like AC/DC or this time. In fact, that's my power right now, is I can do any of that and show that to people. And maybe somebody that likes the horny song happens to need an ambient song. Like I got that too.
Totally, man.
You need an ambient one. I got that too.
Yep.
And it just so that's this exponentially thing. So uh that's the only way that I've kept my network open. That's the only way that I've kept any sort of income coming through here. Like I don't have merch. I had a couple things on merch. The merch didn't even pay for the record. The merch
Mm-hmm.
paid for like a studio day.
Sure.
Because I did a couple studio dates and some at home. And then through that, I've met people and they've started taking guitar lessons. And I was giving a bunch of guitar lessons when I left BSP, and I was like bartending at a different bar and giving guitar lessons. Completely stopped giving guitar lessons for 4 years. And I feel like I'm playing better than I ever have, not being on the road, having the time to actually think, to clarify what I want to say, to get into these kind of headspaces where I can actually say to my, rediscover this kind of idea of tapping into music. That's the thing
Mm.
where I'm talking about making music from the present. It's like, if you're of the mind that music is always happening all around you, and that there's this energy
Mm.
vibratory thing that you can really tap into, if you're really listening and you're really reactive to it. For me, the closest way that I can get to that, the only way that I can get to that, is putting on a track or a chord. Right now, I'm saying, barring being on stage with people, is I put
Mm-hmm.
on like a loop or a track, and I start coming up with these, like I said, these mathematical structures, and it just gets
Sure.
me into this place where I'm completely reacting to
Mm.
myself. And then I feel like, wow, like playing on the edge of time now. Like I'm actually okay. That note might have just touched it, like, I see it out there. It's very
Totally.
closer than it's ever been. And when I play the blues licks that I know, it's just not that. And certainly there's a time for it. I think that guitar is based so much on vocabulary,
Yeah, man.
and so you need to learn. There is a time to be like, I need to play this BB King line exactly the way BB King played it, because it's microtonal and it's timing and it's feel. It's all, you have to get every single thing. That there is a time and a place for that. But when you're playing, it's certainly not that. You take that information that you've gathered over the years and that you've and then
Digested.
yeah, that you've digested, and then you bring it out into the moment with these little mathematical structures, because those things will come out anyway. It's like I had an old teacher that also said, stop playing funky. And we were like playing, and he's like, stop playing funky. He's like, because you're gonna play funky anyway. You're gonna naturally play funky. So don't. Try not to.
Mm.
And it immediately, like, it just like gets you out of that thing, and the same kind of thing gets you into this like bigger space where you're like, okay, I feel like I'm not like in my little comfort zone. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, I got to really latch on to
Yeah.
something solid here.
Yeah. For me, that's always been like the way I get into that state is I stop listening to myself. Like I stop hearing, you know, how you're playing and you're listening to what you're doing.
Mm,
The moment I listen to, I'm like,
yeah.
the more I try and listen to everybody else,
Mm,
the more present I am because I'm focused on that. You know, if your mind is focused, you're focused on yourself. Sometimes, you know, it's like in
yeah.
life, music is life. It's like if you're overemphasizing focus on yourself, you know, that's probably not going to be, you know, probably not going to be a good thing. Yeah, it's not going to end up.
And I think you're right. You're kind of just letting your fingers fly, and it's like if you're trying to digest instead of like thinking about what's the last thing I did, you know, when you're playing in a with people, I think that's so right. You're kind of just picking up on more and more of the micro things that they're doing. Like even you hear that little like that's when you get into the real thing of like you can hear just the way somebody might be sliding down once, and you can like mimic that. You know, you're so tuned into that, and I don't think that we should ever underestimate an audience. I think an audience can absolutely hear that. We've been in the audience and been like, you know, you can
Yeah,
hear
for sure.
you can hear the quarter tone of it. You want to get that?
No, definitely not. I don't even know who
Let
that
me
is.
answer. So yeah, but you can get the quarter tone or whatever. You start listening to it and like, you know, never
Right.
underestimate your audience. The people are out there freaking listening. You can't bullshit an audience. You know,
No, you're totally right, man.
you shouldn't do it.
It's one of, I love at least the jam world. As far as the jam world's concerned, those audiences are the best, man. It's such a ride to go on with them. You know,
Because
it's
they're
not always,
listening.
yeah, because they're listening. And my so that last tour that we did as a trio, like way back when in March or February, man, almost a year ago, pretty much. We were, and a lot of the venues we played were, you know, we've all played them before, like those performing arts centers or those theaters that are sit down. And oh man, there's something so special to playing to a room, a filled room of like a pin drop kind of environment where it's just so quiet and everyone's hanging on every single note. It's so powerful, man.
It's a listening room, but it's a big listening room.
A big, yeah, it's a lot of energy all focused at once.
Right.
It's powerful.
It's pretty amazing. I don't know if I've ever anytime I've played a big room, we're making a ruckus and people are
True.
up and dancing. I've not heard myself really, or maybe for a second, maybe like Uncle John's band or something, but it's not like you guys where it's so polished. I'm sure like
This was a
hearing the
first.
three of you hit a chord in a
This was a first. Yeah,
oh,
you're
I'm
right.
sure
Actually, this was a first. Like
fine
playing
tuning.
the Ryman's the perfect example, man. Playing
yeah.
I mean, yeah, playing the Ryman like when it was a pin drop, the place was sold out, and oh my god, it was it gives me like the chills thinking about it. It's really really powerful stuff.
That's unbelievable. I hope you guys do another tour with the Wood Brothers. I think that's like such a great match for you guys. I know
I we would love that. It's been like a real launch pad for us. We're actually coming out with a trio like EP that we're working on, and we're doing it ourselves. Like as so many people are, we're just like trying not to. We're recording it ourselves, and you know, we're gonna get some other people to mix and master it. But we're just doing acoustic. I've been breaking out the upright now. I'm playing upright. Like on the trio tour, I was playing electric for like a few reasons. One of which I was so out of practice with the upright. Two, I had to play before Chris Wood, and I was like a little daunted.
and you said that he was practicing backstage too. A man of Chris Wood's talent, you said was
every
coming
day,
backstage
man,
and practicing
every day,
That's,
like
yeah,
rigorous practice. It
what
was
a freak.
incredibly inspiring being around them and seeing how they operate, and obviously being validated by them. Everything about it was awesome and inspiring. But what you know, I did the tour on electric, and it was cool. I know I did it because like I knew how to play. I'd been putting all those years into electric, but it definitely lacked some of that. Without a drummer, we were a trio. Without a drummer, it's like it's a little tough to be electric bass unless you're like Victor Wooten or someone like really holding down some kind of crazy percussive rhythm. So bringing the upright back has been super fun and rewarding, and we're singing all the time together, which is more than we've ever done. So we're coming out with this with like a what I'm getting around to saying is we're coming out with an EP, and hopefully, we'll still do the bigger band thing and still want to stay electric but we want opportunities to, um, hopefully when things return to semi-normality, for other opportunities to approach them to come our way, by not just being like a big 7-piece 5-piece band, but also being like a trio, so that maybe a Wood Brothers or a smaller, more well-known band would
I'd
bring us out
also
on the
I'd
road.
I'd I'd also love to hear a duo with Oliver and Kat on a track penned by you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, that'd be
Or the Wood
awesome.
Brothers, but I would love to hear you play bass and Bob play guitar and Oliver sing with
Well,
Kat.
it's so funny. We often we're in the sessions we've been working on lately. We'd be like, "What would Oliver do?" We're like really inspired by him, and he is like a total Gandalf. For the record,
Really?
he's super. He was nice from day one. He was like the one who, on our first show, we're nervous. We're like big fans of the Wood Brothers,
Sure.
and he comes right to the green room day one, like, and is just so psyched to have y'all with us, and just super exactly what you want, to have. And like they don't really just bring anybody out there with them. They want it to be like a big family thing, and they brought Cat up almost every night to sing with them. And
Right. I knew about that.
yeah, so it's great. It's like that's, if we could attain that sort of notoriety and success, we would be that'd be more than enough.
Mm. Well,
I
I
mean,
think you will. I think you will. I think, we've been talking about it for so long, and we've always just said like, just keep at it, just keep at it, and it's
that's what everybody says.
I think that's the only thing that you can do. You
I
just do
know.
that until you do, and it's the same thing like I've been saying since I'm 15. And you just keep doing it. I love what we're also talking about, where we're discovering this lo-fi scene where people are just making music just to make music.
Yeah,
This is like it's funny as us as like professional musicians who have taken the whole thing so seriously, thought about every single concept of the whole thing, devoted our lives to studying. Um, there's people that are not doing that and that are making great music,
I know.
and that's inspiring to me. Like that kind of just that they can take the edge off in some ways. It's like I wish I knew about it 20 years ago. I'm like, oh wait, you can just do that too. You like do it from like 6 to 8 and like you make something like that.
I know.
Maybe I'm not that talented
It's
that
a
I can do it.
different fulfillment, though. I will say that. Like, it's really fun to do the thing, and I'm psyched to be involved in pushing my abilities and production skills to whatever,
Totally.
to be able to make those tracks. But it is a totally different. I.
Right.
It is a way for me to get around to saying, definitely don't take it for granted that you are a live. Like, we're live musicians first,
Yeah.
first and foremost,
And I
and
think
like.
it's almost the difference between like a digital pedal and an analog pedal, isn't it?
Yeah, probably.
It's
Musicians
just
now, producers can just chop up everything, man. Like, they don't even need to play. You
yeah.
you literally go on YouTube and you can find these
Find a beat.
tutorials of people's,
Oh,
no,
find a tutorial. Yeah.
yeah, you can find these people now, and they literally, in their video, in their tutorial, they're like, yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to play an instrument, and like, you don't really need to, like, you could just do this, and it's like,
Yes.
it
Dead
there's a
Mouse. Dead Mouse is living in a mansion doing that. He has no idea. He's like dragging a note across,
right,
the bars
right,
until it sounds good.
that's it. And there's a part of me that's jaded when I
Yeah,
hear
I
that
get
sort
that.
of shit, and
Yeah,
then there's another part of me that's like, good for them, like, whatever, man. If it's
yeah.
music is music, and so,
But there's something to it. There's a meditative
but
quality to.
yeah, but I will say, they might be, those that are doing that and are succeeding might be living financially secure lives, and so good for them. But like, I don't know if I would trade that. I actually know I would not trade that for the life I have and the experiences I've had and experienced playing music, because those have been far more profound than anything you could experience making a beat in your room, and then
Right,
being like,
right,
yo, fucking so and so got on this beat and like it's blowing up, like,
right, right.
cool, good for you. Like, that's still pretty. I don't know, there's like a lot of ego there, and like the connection with making music with other humans, that
Right.
is
Well, that
so much deeper.
yes, and I think yeah, that's totally. It's like two different things. That's music. That is music as celebrity status in a lot of ways. There's a lot of personality that has to be connected
Right.
with that. It's not just like, we all know it's the song has to have a certain level of goodness, but it's not like a banging song gets the charts right now. In fact, that's why I think hip hop is so. And I'm a huge hip hop fan. For people that don't know, I'm a huge rap fan.
Mm-hmm.
huge hip hop fan. But I think why hip hop is so prevalent these days is exactly that. It's made for it's almost like a little disposable. It's like it's made for today. You can rap about the impeachment trial starting today because
Right.
you don't need to do like what we do, is like maybe think about things for weeks on end and like get the right instrument, whatever it might be. You can go into your on your laptop and write about current events that are happening today. So in one way, that's very cool. And mixed with the rapping characteristics of, there's a lot of information in rap. There's more information in a song that arguably than in other things, right? But it's more like poetic, painting pictures. You only have three rap. Just the volume of words is so much, you can get a lot out.
It's true.
So I think that that's why it's so prevalent. You can get it, and it's great, and it's hot, and it's perfect for the attention span of the American today, and it's gone, and then you have the next one. And that is because that has become a very lucrative system. It's an awesome
Yeah.
system. I don't down anybody that's doing it, but where I am
Oh,
jaded, is like you. Like, I appreciate real talent. It's like wine. It's like, I also don't like Hudson Valley baby bourbon because I'm like, fuck this. They put it in like a, like I need my 14-year. I need the thing to sit for 14 years.
yeah.
Then it's
Something that did
tasty.
the work. It did the work.
It did the work, or just, yeah, it's like it's analog talent. So I, like, okay, I'm not saying that Dead Mouse shouldn't be in not that I know a single Dead Mouse song. I've probably heard them, but I'm sure I'm not saying that he doesn't belong in a mansion or whatever. Like I said, I get that lucrative system.
Totally.
And I totally see it, but it's just like a digital pedal and analog pedal. You can tell real talent. It's like Jacob Collier. How blessed are we on this earth to be with a mind like Jacob Collier, like giving us like
100%, man.
free YouTube? It's just a completely different thing, and his music will never be accepted by the masses,
Right.
but he doesn't need it to be. He doesn't
I
need
know.
it to be. He just
I know.
needs the right people to find his music, and
Yeah.
his stuff is stunning anyway. So
And there are a lot of people who are on that, pretty high tier who are totally hip to it, and like artists, I mean, that are super supportive of his work and his talent as well. But yeah, we are lucky to have him, man. That is like,
there's a lot of people that are, there. You mean like Herbie Hancock and all those people that are bringing him up?
no, even like pop, pop stars and rappers today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally like. He did that thing with Mahalia. Did a song with her that I love, and I know that he's good friends with Charlie Puth, and he's insane. I mean, I think his production skills alone and just his ear is insane. I mean, you can hear.
Yeah.
There's a video where he's singing out chords, like he's singing upper extensions of chords, and somebody's like playing the piano with him because he has perfect pitch. But like he's like, oh, you have something like a G13, and he like sings it perfectly, but he's singing it out. He's singing it in weird arpeggios. You're like, what?
Oh yeah, I know, when he can sing out the chords without there.
What?
That's so trippy.
Somebody put just a piano to that, just to be like, it's completely perfect.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Yeah.
It's
Gorgeous.
It's amazing, man.
I'm a huge fan of his. I'm gonna have him on a Dimmer episode. Mark my damn words.
I would love to listen to that one. And he's got like, he said something. I listened to an interview he did with somebody about that really hit me, because one thing that's always has bugged me a little bit is I love the music that he makes, but sometimes, and just to be fully transparent, I'll listen to it and I'll be like, whoa, like this is so dense that I just can't digest it. My ear just couldn't comprehend the story, basically, because it was so. I'm not talking lyric. I'm talking just strictly
his
from
harmony
a harmonic.
Is so
his harmony,
dense,
it's just super dense. It's hard to hear, and we've been conditioned over time for our pop songs and even our Beatles songs, which they pushed harmony a little bit in the pop world with with what they did. That we're conditioned to have like those classic 1-4-5 kind of blues structure, but like nothing crazy harmonically. So like that's like, well, we can digest. The pop songs are like a progression that's very repetitive and like really gives you the hook and just like boom, pals it like right in your face. And his whole thing is like, if you were to take some of that music and take it to like a third world country or a different place where their ear is just completely different, like something that sounds super simple to us or might be like totally complicated to somebody else. It's just a matter of like what his way of describing how our ears are conditioned was really revelating for me, because I was like, Yeah. So it made me feel a little bit like I need to work on my ear, basically, because
How does he explain that? I don't know what you mean by that. He explains how our ears are
well, he
tuned.
was just saying like our ears are
He's saying what you're saying, which is the pop song thing, and we're conditioned to hear, you know,
certain
not
things. Yeah.
such not such dense harmony, some space.
Yeah, exactly. Well, basically, you know, that our ears are just a little bit more closed. They're not all the way open that they to experience all of that those lush harmony and colors. Like we can experience it, but I always like to think about music as, and I would imagine someone with perfect pitch, kind of like I always like to picture that they hear everything in full color as opposed to like or like fully clear color, crisp color, like crisp and not blurry, not like kind of not what's that impressionistic, like not
Yes,
like
yes.
you know what
I
I mean.
understand. Totally. I'm with you.
um and but I feel like you can develop the ear, some people are born with that perfect pitch and instant recognition to have all those colors really clear, but most of us aren't. But if we work at it and you can hopefully get your ears to a place where you hear it more clearly. And um I guess that's just my way of saying that he's on another fucking level, and I can't digest all of it, but that doesn't mean it's not fucking awesome.
Well,
And it
that's why
just
we were
means that
talking. Yeah,
yeah.
we were talking about. Well, I think everybody has a certain level of dissonance that they can take.
Mm-hmm.
Some people listen to jazz and they're like, "What the fuck is going? That sounds like
Sure, yeah,
gobbledygook."
exactly.
So everybody has a different level, and I think that's why we were on the same page. I had to post about it even on Instagram when he put out that voice memo. I was so taken aback by it because I said, finally here's Jacob, just doing something simple. Here,
Yeah,
and it even with that, there's some crazy stuff going on. But here's like it not being all that, and
sure.
I think that he's aware of it, and that's enough for me.
I know he's
That I know that he's just he's cognizant of it, but it's basically like, listen, yeah, and this is just in defense of him. Not that I'm even strongly defending it, but in a sense, I am. I think he's saying, "Listen, I can do that, but nobody can do what I'm hearing. There's nobody else that can make this music, and there really is nobody else that I've heard that ever has come close to the." Just looking at his Logic sessions, he does Logic session
I
breakdowns on YouTube,
know, I
and you have
know,
600 tracks on there,
I
and
know. It's insane.
it's insane. And so he is working at a level, both musically, but also in a production sense, that just nobody else is. So I'm glad that he put this kind of voice memo thing out. I'm hoping that he shows some more raw stuff. He's also so young. Like, what
I
was
know,
I doing when I was 24 years old? I
I
was like
know, I know,
blackout drunk at BSP trying to keep
I
that thing
know.
open.
I like to think of him as like he really is like our Quincy Jones or our Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, and I love that he's so open with the education part too. It's
Totally.
it's not just it's not just we're getting the albums. He
Did you?
actually does master all the time. There's YouTube basically demonetized master.
Oh,
Nothing is
I
demonetized
know
on.
he's so educated. I know you're right. He's so.
So
I
I love
love
that.
that. Me
Yeah.
too, man. And I could watch that stuff for hours. It's so great. There's
Yeah,
so much. There's so
it
much
blew my
wisdom
mind.
there.
His whole thing about talking about instilled this in my students, talking about the circle of fifths and
Yeah.
fifths being a way to brighten things up. Going through fifths is
Fourths are dark.
right, and fourths are dark, and just like show that to students, and being like, let's stop thinking of major and minor, like a parallel major and minor, as opposites. Let's not think like that anymore. Let's think about these full tones, and I just play them. Just say like, what do you hear here? Play through in fifths all
I
across the
know.
keyboard, and in fourths. And I certainly hear it, and so it's interesting to see kids. I have some kids be like, wow. I have some kids be like, I don't know. Okay, that's cool. But I have some kids be like, wow, because you can kind of hear this. I mean, Jacob is amazing at showing exactly what it is. But even just playing the fifths up or fourths up, you're like, I can kind of see how that whole thing works.
Totally.
He's not even of the. He's talking about a triple dominant, super dominant chord where you're actually getting all the 12 chromatic notes through the dominant chord, and he's worked that whole thing out, how the upper extensions are supposed to work in his mind. He's not even of the mind. I don't know if you know about the Lydian chromatic concept.
I've heard. I think I've seen something on that, but I don't. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, and then this is just stuff I know a lot about all this stuff, and I kind of like lightly, play around with it. But the Lydian chromatic concept, basically, for those who don't, I don't know the founder of it. It's a out of print book, but you can find stuff on it. But basically, this guy was theorizing that that major is not truly the real major scale. It's not like the true, but actually Lydian is closer to being like a pure, right? Because of the way the overtone series works. And so
Sure.
Lydian is actually, and that blew my mind. I was like, oh, because I'll listen to anybody that I think is smarter than me. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, that sounds right. And and I can see it. And he like explains the overtone series. Well, Jacob came back and he's like, it's actually not right, because at that point you're submitting to the equal temperament system. You're saying to yourself, okay, this C Lydian sounds great with this C Lydian, but how about this? And he plays like a different extension, like C with like a D on top, or he plays the right overtones. And he's like, doesn't that just sound better? And like, of course it does, because it's Jacob saying it.
Yep.
And he's saying like, actually, if you go closer to the overtone series here, he's showing it to Charlie Puth on an Instagram live. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. This is the stuff, like, I mean, I'm sure it's on YouTube afterwards, but I was like, I'm freaking glad I'm awake right now listening to this shit, because nobody else is even talking anything close to this stuff. And he's telling Charlie Puth, I found the triple dominant chord. I found the proper, it's just mind blowing stuff
I
to
know.
me.
It's
So that's
that
a
is
different level
it's a cool time to be alive for that 100%.
for information.
Yeah, information sharing is amazing.
Yeah,
What a
absolutely.
time. Yeah, dude.
What a time.
What's next, man? Woo, to
I
the
don't know.
future, infinity and beyond, baby.
Dogecoin and Bitcoin are next.
That's right. I finally got myself a little bit of Bitcoin just for
Did ya?
shits. Fishman told me to get some.
What are you on? What are you on, Robinhood, or are you on a different app?
Coinbase.
Okay, cool. Because I was on Robinhood. I didn't get caught up in that whole GameStop thing,
Me neither.
but I have some stuff on Robinhood, and like now after that, everybody's like, get your stuff out of Robinhood, put it into something else, because they're gonna go broke, and everybody's gonna need their billions and billions from them, and they're gonna take my money with them. So I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
What to do.
I'm just getting hip to this with just not even with crypto stuff, but just like being investing in the little money that we do have, and like knowing, that it doesn't all have to live in a savings account, that like it could be
Yeah, I like that. Like
investing in.
money, I like that money is working.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Yeah,
that
that
idea.
concept. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, it's not at rest. Like, if
Because I've never experienced that before. I don't know about you, so that's a new thing for me.
it's new for me too. I mean, this is since pandemic. This is since unemployment. This is since a pivot. This is since a switch. And it's like, okay, I'm at home. I still got to be making money. I got to find any way to hustle. I've been doing side jobs, teaching. I haven't really done many streams. That's the kind of thing where I feel like I needed to be polished. That's the last thing I want to do. I'd go to Zach's right now and do a stream with him. He's got the whole thing set up and everything sounds great. Yeah, it's awesome. He's got a new garage that he totally reconverted. But the streams are tough. What I'd rather do is I'd rather just go on like IG Live on my porch and play for a while. I always get like a bunch of good compliments, and that's a way to like organically build. So, but anyway, since
it's hard to do the stream thing unless you've got like a really big kind of following, and like loyal supporters, and that's a hard thing to do, man.
Yeah, totally.
But
that's why,
and also a giant songbook, like of your songs, hopefully. But like, you know,
yeah, you need a giant. I think a big thing is everybody needs an hour set. I've been thinking about this a lot more too, and I'm asking my students, if you had to play an hour show, if you have to play an hour-long show by yourself tonight, could you do it?
Right.
Most people can't.
I couldn't do one solo. I don't think so.
Most people can't. It's hard, especially like a bass player. You spend so much time with bass player. For me, I think I'm lucky, and I've enough Grateful Dead people know me. And then thank God in Kingston, even though like the hippie thing is not it, it's like very like indie hipster city kind of vibe here. But they still are just, I think, they're still cool with the Dead. It's not like there's some towns where like you just can't play the Grateful Dead, but I can get away with it in Kingston. There's people that know me from that. So I'm really lucky in that sense. I just throw a couple of originals in. If I have a loop pedal, I can, do whatever I need to.
Yeah, totally.
But I think a lot of people can't do an hour set. I think it's something that everybody kind of should have down. I actually didn't think about it because I only teach guitar. I didn't think about it from a bass student, because I wouldn't ask a young bass student, hey, if you had to play for an hour, could you do it? Because probably can't.
Yeah.
Probably can't.
It's good luck. You need to be a I could maybe throw some stuff together with a loop pedal, but like after a while,
You do like the
don't know.
Victor Wooten thing. I love Victor. Like tells a couple stories and slap at a bass, and that's it. He's so charismatic and personable.
I know.
Besides the talent,
I know. It's
yeah.
true.
Me and my bass guitar. Well,
That's
anyway,
right.
thank you so much, dude.
It's
You're
my
the
pleasure,
best.
man. Thanks for having me on. This is awesome. Just nice to catch up too.
Nice to catch up. Great conversation. I feel like I learned something too. I hope people listening learned something. And yeah, let's do another one before the end of the year and see how
Yeah.
everything went. I want to see how the summer went, and hopefully
Yeah,
we'll
we'll be
keep
able to
successing.
recap on where we were,
And there will be
how
more
far we've
Moonwake
come.
songs out. So
Totally.
looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you'll might have more Cat Wright stuff. I mean, I don't know when this EP is coming out, but it is
It's
highly
coming up
anticipated.
first week of March.
First week of March. Oh, that's what. Okay, you did you say that first week of
No,
March?
I said it's
Okay.
coming out, but like it's looking like it's coming out first week of March.
Okay, so you
Being
heard
like mixed and mastered now, and bada bing, bada boom. And we're gonna
that's
do like a
amazing.
live stream, like our first live stream in a long time. I think on March 4th. And it's gonna be like
Okay.
we're gonna do it right, like you said. Like we're hiring people to like really do it proper, and
You guys, you always have the tip top products.
we'll
You
see,
really do.
man.
I
I don't
know.
know.
It's gonna
We'll
be
see.
great. It's gonna be freaking great. I know you guys. All
Thanks,
right, so
bud.
everybody go check out Moonwake. Everybody go check out Cat Wright. Everybody go check out Josh Weinstein. Everybody understand that Dimmer is the last bastion of truth in the music industry, and therefore the rest of the world. If I tell you something is good, it is. If I tell you something is bad, you can trust me. It's not that great. It's pretty bad. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks again, Josh Weinstein, and we'll see you on the next Dimmer. Take care.